Let's get straight to the point. From Tencent's perspective, Tarkov is an absolutely worthless game with zero commercial value. At its core, Escape from Tarkov is just a hardcore single-player ARPG survival game. The way this game operates is basically a scam. It's like a pig butchering scheme. They lure players in, take their money, and since you can't get a refund after buying it, they just half-heartedly maintain the servers or whatever. The money they make, they just use it to buy themselves big houses. As for all those other issues like cheating and whatever else, honestly, they're just not going to care about any of that. So under these circumstances, it's absolutely impossible for Arena Breakout to actually learn from Tarkov. First off, Arena Breakout is fundamentally an online multiplayer FPS PvP game. You can see that from how it's played, but at its core, that's what it is. To put it bluntly, all that stuff in Tarkov, like the hideout, the traders, and all the other random features, can Arena Breakout learn from or copy those? Is it hard to implement these features? Not at all. It's just a matter of copying them directly. So why don't they do it? Because it's not realistic. It's just not possible. In Tarkov, is it really that easy to earn in-game currency or to find a sense of progression? And that's because, at its core, Tarkov is basically a single-player game. After a raid, you just switch to another one and keep going. The PvP in Tarkov is really just an add-on, not the main product. That's why Tarkov can get away with all sorts of weird mechanics that frustrate players, and people still play it obsessively, just like with Star Rail. But Arena Breakout is obviously different. It's not a single-player game, there's no ending, and it doesn't have all those random storylines. The goal is to make money, spend it, take on challenges, and enjoy the thrill of victory. That's why Arena Breakout can't just copy Tarkov, and why Tarkov can't just follow its own formula. Bluntly, Tarkov has fewer than 100,000 daily users. If Arena Breakout copies it, that's asking for trouble. Tencent, get real. Seeing these comments is hilarious. Like, I want a lightweight Tarkov, not a skillless Cycle Frontier. A lightweight Tarkov is a false premise. If you want that, Tarkov isn't for you. To be blunt, you don't want lightweight Tarkov. You want to mess around without the pressure. If so, just play the offline version by yourself. Isn't that enough? As a Tencent game, Arena Breakout won't be a light Tarkov. This brings us to the main point. What's wrong with Arena Breakout? Where do its problems lie, and how to improve the test server? By now, it's clear where the secure storage problem lies, specifically the combat system in game feel. To explain, consider 3 questions. First, why does Tarkov have inertia? As a hardcore survival game, it's essentially a single-player experience. It just happens to have PvP. When a single-player game punishes players, that's actually a kind of motivation. It's like when you play Super Mario. You don't stop playing just because it's too hard. After all, you already paid for the game, so when you get home, you're definitely going to try to beat it, right? Next, regarding Dark Zone status, why avoid this setup? Because it's a free online PvP FPS, not a single-player game. The focus isn't clearing stages, it's player competition. In PvP, this mechanic punishes players unnecessarily, making combat feel confusing and frustrating. There's simply no need for it. And that's one of the main reasons why the retention rate in the Dark Zone is so pathetically low right now. Just to be clear, I'm not insulting you or anything, I'm just stating a fact. Honestly, you probably know this even better than I do. Players who are after that intense, fast-paced FPS thrill are probably not going to pick this game. And those who are looking for really tough, high-difficulty missions, the hardcore crowd, basically single-player gamers, they're not going to play your game either. The people who actually play your game are the ones who pretend to be big fans of Tarkov, or those who tried Tarkov but found it too hard and gave up. Those are your real target users. So with all these target users, to be honest, there probably aren't as many of these people as you might think. And honestly, this group isn't as tolerant as Tarkov players, who actually enjoy putting themselves through tough challenges for the sake of completing missions. But they're also not like regular FPS players, who understand that in a shooting game, you have to get into gunfights to get better. Basically, what these players want is just a version of Tarkov with mods that lets them play PvP. That's exactly why, no matter what kind of event Arena Breakout puts out lately, it always gets slammed and criticized to the point where people are cursing it out. Now, let's move on to 2 more questions. First, why does Tarkov allow for this kind of recoil control? Like I said before, Tarkov is a hardcore survival game that's mainly single player, so having automatic recoil control isn't really a big deal, because most of the time, the enemies players face are AI. The reason it was designed with automatic recoil control is to keep you from mowing down AI with full auto fire and making the game too easy. After all, if there were no automatic recoil control, all the guns would basically be laser guns, and the recoil would be super manageable. You'd breeze through the game in no time, and that would just make the dev team look clueless, right? So for a single-player survival game, or really any hardcore single-player looter shooter, it actually makes a lot of sense to have this feature. After all, the main goal for players isn't to make money, it's to beat the game. These designs and little tricks are really just meant to extend the time it takes you to finish the game, while also giving you and the AI or other players a more interesting and competitive experience. So why can't Arena Breakout have this too? Like I said before, Arena Breakout is an online multiplayer FPS, and your source of fun is different. No matter how much you try to cover it up with the idea of being hardcore, or how much you try to defend this game, there's one fact you can never deny. The thrill of this game really comes down to just two things. Either you loot and score big, or you get into fights. But take a look at this combat system, right? They added this auto recoil control, which is basically a single player mechanic meant to artificially extend the time it takes players to clear a level. You'll realize it just doesn't make sense logically. It's totally baffling. It's just unacceptable. It's purely there to annoy players. It makes the game less enjoyable and artificially raises the skill floor, so honestly, this whole thing is pointless. Now, let's talk about hit blur. Hit blur is another big issue. Like I said before, Arena Breakout isn't Tarkov, and it's not a hardcore survival FPS. Its only goal is to make money, to compete with Tarkov, and to get players to clear the game. That's it. It can use this kind of hit blur to create a sense of immersion and realism in the game. At the same time, it allows players to feel that the game world is logically consistent, which better encourages them to make different choices and decisions about their movements. It lets players have different ways to complete the game. To put it simply, Tarkov was made this way because the developers aren't short on money. Making money isn't the goal of this game. The reason they did this is simply so that after you earn money on your journey to beat the game, you can experience a kind of true immersion through this feature. But does Onto Breakout really need this? Adding a mechanic like this is pointless. You don't even need to beat the game, and the only real positive feedback between players is killing and grabbing big loot. Doesn't it seem totally out of place to add this in? I'm not even talking about whether it brings any positive benefits or if you have to take out certain targets. Just looking at the actual gameplay, adding something like this just leads to straight up gunfights. Basically, if someone's invincible, whether they get shot in the head twice or hit in the body a couple times, when you try to fight back, you realize you can't even see the other guy. And this is still a multiplayer online FPS PvP game. In the end, it leads to players getting extremely frustrated, and everyone's cursing you out because your combat system is honestly just mediocre. The toxic environment in your community is basically your own fault. Alright, now let's talk about the most fundamental, or rather, the most critical issue. And that's the problem with the gun stats in Dark Zone itself. This issue is a heavyweight problem. After the holidays, we need a proper weapon stat overhaul in the test server. The gun stats are way out of line. Assault rifles are trash, while snipers are totally broken. It's frustrating. Between the hardcore mechanics and these terrible stats, it feels like to just guessed the numbers. A marksman rifle with a 26-meter range is worse than a Desert Eagle. Yeah, this definitely needs to be redone. Some might ask, why bring this up? It's not helping Unity. Do you have something against the other region? Honestly, I have nothing against them. I'm just scared because if I can spot these problems, why can't the developers? But on the bright side, the closed beta launches soon, so I hope they'll surprise me and fix these issues. If they fix these, there'll be backlash, but the game will improve. Stop saying Dark Zone should be a light Tarkov. It's impossible. Tarkov is about clearing levels, while Dark Zone is just about making money. These two things are fundamentally incompatible. Alright, lastly, I also hope that the Dark Zone Breakout PC project team can bring us more surprises during this closed beta test on the test server. That's all. Respect.